All right, revised technology proposal.
Let me think.
I had asked that I had time to review this before we voted. I think we had received a presentation from Mr. Woodrow on it at the last meeting, so I would be glad to speak to it if there's nothing else that you have to add.
Yeah, and I think you're right. Oops. I think you're right on target, Dave. I think the game plan was that you take action on it tonight, and then at our next meeting, we'd have to hold a public hearing before we actually expended the funds.
Well, if I may, Chair, I'd be glad to bring my points after I've had time to review this. The first thing that I did was I asked Dr. Littlefield for a definition of 21st century learning, because this proposal, the goal of the proposal, and the only really descriptive information about why we should vote for this, quotes that it's to provide 21st century learning. And I really frankly wasn't that surprised to see that it is a whole page. It's not something that's very narrow. And I have stated before on this board that I'm not going to vote for anything that's not data driven. And I would say this is very data driven as far as how much things cost and so forth, but not data driven in how it's to be utilized and how it fits into a plan for what we're going to do with it. And I would like to see, when we receive a request to expend money, that we know what it's going to achieve. What are we buying that for specifically? And I don't see any data in that area. Past that, I did talk to Dr. Littlefield about the Chromebooks. And just for the benefit of the public, our Chromebook is an inexpensive laptop that's made to run the Google operating system. They're about $240, $260. So there are significant savings. They rely heavily on the internet or the cloud for their processing power. So it certainly is appealing based on the price at about half the price of the other laptops, but yet not proven. We need to look at these, and that's what I heard. That's why we're buying only one set, and we're going to try them. On that basis, I think that's a good idea. I really do. And I've heard a lot about these Chromebooks, and as long as our internet connection can hold up, I think it's good, and they are making strides to make these things work and do more processing if the internet is not there. The problem I have with the proposal is we're buying two what I would call traditional laptop carts that are going to cost us nearly twice as much each. I would much rather see us expend the money for the Chromes, test them, record the data, track it, and evaluate them. And if they pay off the way that we hope they will, we could buy 4 carts instead of 2. And on the other hand, if they don't work out, we could certainly fall back on our plan to buy the 2 carts. I just think that, you know, we could, and if we had some more data on these 2 carts that are being replaced, we could make a better decision on whether we could put off buying those 2 carts until we have time to test the Chromes out, and whatever that period of time would be adequate to figure out whether they're acceptable for our use. But we don't have that data. And I have asked for data before as far as our tracking of our repair reports and so forth. So I have no data on what we're replacing, and I am reluctant to buy 2 of the traditional ones while we're buying 1 to try out. So I don't support this in its current form.
Mike?
Well, I have a question. This is for the $60,000 warrant article that's already passed, correct? Do we have a time limit of when to spend that money? No? So we could use part of it and wait?
It's in a trust fund, so you can spend it.
So it's possible to spend some of it and then wait and spend the rest later then?
Yes.
Sorry, Trish.
Could I ask the question on the two carts of MacBook? Are those replacing current carts or refurbing carts that we have, or what's the plan for?
They would be replacing the two carts. And I believe I did send the information that was requested as far as the hours spent with repair on those two carts. That was the request. And I did respond to that email with some data.
Well, if you did, I apologize, because I haven't seen any data on that, and I don't see it here.
And that could be me too. That could be me too. Because I think I did ask that question, and I think you provided me with something, and I thought I had followed it, but maybe not.
If I may.
Please.
I think Karen's answer that we're not under a time limit, which I wasn't sure about. I think it goes more to my point that I think these Chromebooks really could be a game changer here. Because for $260, you're getting down to almost a throwaway device. And I did a little research on them, and at least what I'm reading, I think it really may be something that suits our purposes here. So I'm just reluctant to spend the money on the traditional carts where we can get a 2-to-1 buy if we decide to go with Chrome. And I would just hope that if we approve this, or at least the Chrome part of this, that we set up some method to track that usage and to really quantify how effective these things are, so that we can, if they come back for some approval of money to buy more, we have some data to look at and say, yes, these are what we need, and we're willing to fund it.
Just for clarification's sake, and I'm not sure who would answer this, a Chromebook looks more like an iPad than it does like a laptop, or does it look like a laptop?
That's a Chrome tablet. It looks-
So these Chromebooks, do they look like,
They look more like a laptop.
oh, okay. Thank you for that clarification.
Mr. Yeah, and one of the things that I've been finding out is that but kind of the rush toward tablets in schools has not been that effective as a total replacement, because you lose the keyboard. They're certainly interesting for a lot of presentation type stuff, but you come back to that fact that you don't have a keyboard that you can execute quickly and type. You're more doing the hunt and peck. So that's one of the things that got me about these is the traditional keyboard and screen versus more the tablet or the iPad approach where you're using a on-screen type keyboard. I've always been an advocate that I think we should teach kids how to keyboard because I think it's going to be proficient. I've said this before, the QWERTY keyboard layout has lasted something like 98 years and probably be here long after we're gone. So learning that and being proficient at it, I think, is certainly a skill that kids are going to use in the future. So that's really what swings me towards these Chromebooks, is that you get the price, you get the keyboard. So I'm really hopeful about them. And I think we have the internet infrastructure here to support them, because if you're a school that doesn't have that internet infrastructure, I think then you want to really reconsider these. They really rely on the internet.
Well, I like Dave's idea of improving part of it and not the other part, but how long would we wait, and how long would that take? If what we have now is it in need of great repair, and what we do for our students right now is what I'm saying, if we're losing out, and depending on how those are working.
Currently, out of the original 15 in our cart at Memorial, I believe we have, when I checked, we have 9 of the original that are still in the cart. A few of the other ones have been replaced. It is in need of replacement. We are spending, more time repairing those. As I looked through our work request system, as well as the Underhill original 15, we have 9 as well of the original ones in that car. They're going on 6 years old, being repaired more often. That's a pretty long life for a laptop. So they are in need of replacement.
I wouldn't have a problem doing as Dave has suggested. Get the Chromebooks in, give them a try, and reserve the right to come back at a later point in time and say, we believe that we should be replacing the more traditional labs, or these things are so great, we're going to use these instead. But I don't think, Matt, that we lose anything if we can order these rather quickly. And if there's a good delivery time, we've got half a school year to deal with.
Thank you.
Now, if my memory serves me correct, the Chromebooks were coming to Colley, correct? Now, the Colley currently has laptop carts. Could we take some of the laptops that are on the Colley carts to move the Underhill and Memorial to full carts? Because they're gonna have 60 more laptops here. Could that be a possibility to make the others more functioning?
Yeah, we could certainly take the ones that are still functioning off the Colley carts, reallocate those to Memorial and Underhill as needed. Yes.
Because that would make those more fully functioning carts.
I would certainly agree with Dr. Littlefield's agreeing with me. And I would go on the record that says, in saying that if these Chromebooks work out, after we've had an adequate test period, I would vote the rest of this money out for that. I just would like to see some data so that we can put these through a test that we can quantify. That's what I'd like to see, and and maybe use them in some different environments just to make sure we're not going to get ourselves into some type of a situation where they don't work that well. And I also think to go to Mrs. Corcus's question, if there is any internet reliability questions, I think we really have to consider those with the Chromebooks, because they are going to be, my understanding, much harder to operate offline. So that internet connection is part of the whole success of Chromebook.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the portion of the proposal, and if I'm correct, it's in the amount of $15,700 for the Chromebook.
Second.
Discussion?
We have the
Please.
need.
Carol?
I believe that the discussion that we had here was very thorough, and I'm in favor of the suggestion of Mr. Pearl and Dr. Littlefield.
And one clarification, I think we're motioning to buy. I'm only asking that because there's a little advertisement on here for lease payments as low as so much a month. But this is a motion to purchase. Okay.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor of approving the motion as presented, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Now, that actually means that at our next meeting, we'll have a public hearing for the expenditure of 15.7 before we can actually put the orders in. So we'll order those hopefully on January 8th.
And Dr. Littlefield, we have one, right? So maybe we could bring it.
Yeah.
Bring it to the meeting. I haven't physically seen one yet. I've just seen them on pictures, so
Yes.
I'd like to see one. Thank you.
Matt has a better memory than I do, so if you remember to bring that next time, yes.
Thank you.